All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin NFC North Podcast, episode number 8. We are on, and never happened before, NFL 2021, Week 18. How's it going, everyone?
Great. Fantastic. Happy New Year.
It's going great. It's going great. I will say there has been a Week 18 in the past. I forget which year it was, but they gave 2 bye weeks one year, and then they immediately stopped. I forget what year. I think it was like in the 90s or something like that. Anyway, that was random, but there you go. Here I am.
Hey, you're dressed
Bar
like
trivia.
You're dressed like the dude. You're ready to go. So
Well, yeah. If the Vikings season's over, full off-season attire. They're not showing up ready to play. I'm not showing up ready to play either. I'm coming out soft, just like the Vikings.
Well, let's kind of get right into that. Like week 17, that was an interesting beginning. Vikings-Packers, it kind of ended like, everyone thought it would. Lions Seahawks, crazy, Bears, I don't know what that was, a meaningless win. But obviously the Vikings and Packers, that is the marquee game. Let's talk a little bit about that, whatever that was.
Yeah, Sean Mannion's name and lights on the marquee.
I tried to give you a bunch of pump up some headlines.
I can tell you what
Go
it
ahead.
was not.
Go ahead. What?
I can tell you what it was not, and it was not the Dalvin Cook show. That's what it was not.
That is true, and I predicted it would be, and that's what they really. I mean, they needed that.
Oh, badly.
Yeah. See, that's what. When I heard that Kirk Cousins wasn't playing, I obviously wasn't too worried about the Packers losing that. At the same time, the last time they played, it was the Dalvin Cook show, whether Kirk Cousins was there or not. So.
Yeah, and Sean Mannion should be able to throw a screen pass. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, so I thought he was going to be able to get them through it with Cook, but.
Tell you what, I'm going to throw this out there. We were talking about this before we started, and in my opinion, from what I saw at the beginning, I think if Kirk Cousins was playing, I think the Vikings win that game.
No, for me, no, for me, no. I mean, not with the way he's been playing. Since the last Packers win, which we talked about extensively on that show. I think it was week 11, week 10. In which Kirk Cousins had an incredible game, but also we got the bounces went the Vikings' way, like a lot of them, especially the interceptable passes. Since that game and since the win after the Chargers to follow it up, Kirk has just been a sprinkler of interceptable passes, inaccurate. Sometimes his excellent receivers make him look good, but even on the throws they're catching, they're not on point. They're a little behind. He is a little hesitant, right? Justin Jefferson's wide open, and he'll take a hitch. Like, oh no, come on, just like fire that thing in there. Not the way he's been playing lately, and line that up with how Kirk Cousins has played in December since 2018, which has just been underwhelming. There's a reason the Vikings haven't made the playoffs, and it's because they keep underperforming in December. Even the year 2019 where they made the playoffs, they backed in. They backed in off a loss, right? So it maybe, right? If Kirk was playing in September, October, November, Kirk, yes. Yeah, that's a winnable game for sure. Gettable. But the way that Kirk has been playing and how Kirk has consistently played in December, that's a no for me. But maybe Danny thinks it is. No?
Do I think that they would have won that game?
Yeah.
No. I don't.
Homer.
I think that they stopped Dalvin, that Kirk Cousins would have had to throw more, and then he would have thrown some interceptions. That's how I would have saw that going. Because that's generally how it goes.
Yeah, and Grubb, you like the way Mannion played. I kind of like the way Mannion played, honestly.
He actually, come on, the guy got thrown into this situation. Yeah. Now, when he got drafted out of Colorado State to the Saints, there was talk he might be the transmission guy from Breeze. So, but he looked, for a guy who's got no play and then just kind of got thrust into, he came off the COVID list. And, I thought he looked for a guy who's had like really no practice or practice time or
no starts.
You gotta give him credit.
Yeah,
you gotta give him credit. And these tall quarterbacks, we saw Ben Roethlisberger obviously finish it off the other night. And but these tall guys, man, that can get the ball over the line real easy and into the middle of the field with clear vision. They seem sometimes to have a good. Brock Osweiler struggled in his career, but Manning looked like he was pretty good. I mean, he gave it his best for a guy who had no practice. I thought he looked pretty decent. Yeah,
for someone who has a fairly well-earned title as worst backup quarterback in the NFL, I think he played pretty. Like, I mean, I couldn't have expected anything better. No one else really showed up though. The offensive line against a completely depleted, and that was the one thing that gave us all hope for the Vikings was like, oh, no defensive line, okay, but even still. No, like backups still getting through up the middle, right? Oh, yeah. And it's just like, oh my God, how many times do we have to see this over and over again?
There was no explosiveness in the run game, especially for the Vikings offensive line. Like they were not blowing off the ball. No. What do you think about that, Danny? Do you think that they, I think that for the backups for the Packers on the the Packers, they did really good.
Yeah, like I've been saying all year, it's been the next man up, and everybody who's had to fill shoes has exceeded expectations. It's just been, it's been a shock, really. I mean, especially our offensive line. I don't think we've got any preferred starters on there, but you would never know it. And so I think that's been my biggest surprise of the season, and I think that's gonna go a long way in the playoffs. Because without that, we would be screwed. I'm pretty sure. Aaron still would have been.
A lot of teams, you're right. I mean, when they get to the playoffs, a lot of teams they struggle with that. They get an injury or two during a game, but I think on both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers for the Packers, they've
secondary.
And second, they've had so much in and out. They have so much game experience now that come the playoffs, if a few guys go down during games, they have some backup. Now, if they get healthy, obviously they get the bye this weekend or next week. But they're, if they get healthy during that and they get a lot of these guys back, if they lose somebody, they've got game experience.
Yeah, I mean, they picked up Russell, and then Jair's probably coming back.
Oof.
And I have no idea where the Stephen Moore character came from on the for special teams actually returning.
They hired that guy off the street or something, and he
well, I mean, a punt return is not an easy job, right? They usually put but like catching a punt that a punter does not want you to catch is probably one of the is a very difficult thing to do. So that was surprising.
Yeah, but they've picked up just Devondre Campbell. It's been a great season for Goody this year.
Tell you what, like probably, and I just had done another pod, kind of going through the playoffs and full disclosure, I did pick the Packers to win the Super Bowl, I just, because of Aaron Rodgers, right? But you talk about all those other players, with the Packers defense, and you just like a Rasul Douglas, all these players they're almost like playing above, like where they are, they're just playing out of their minds, right? And the only when I look at them, like, can they keep doing that? Yeah. Number one, can they keep doing that? Number two, will they need to if they get Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah, and the thing with the Packers team generally is that usually, I think this Vikings game this past weekend was the most complete game I've seen from every single phase, from the defense, from the offense, from special teams. But generally, they don't all play well. Like it's either the defense is doing really well, or they're sucking, so the offense is doing really well. And I worry with Green Bay. If Aaron does not have his best game, can we trust the defense to be the best versions of themselves? I don't know. I mean, we have not seen that yet in the past 2 years that they went to the championship. I do understand this is a different defense. We had a different coach. But I don't know yet if I trust. I know they have it in them. We've seen them do it this season against a lot of contenders. But I just don't know that I trust the defense to pick up Aaron Rodgers if he's not having his best game. I think the only way they go to the Super Bowl and win is if Aaron is Aaron Rodgers. He has to be, in my
Yeah, and you have a lot of historical context of defenses just submarining excellent quarterback play to fall back on. That's kind of like a Packer tradition, really. I mean, every once in a while they get a good defense and they win the Super Bowl, but other than that, it's like a quarterback dragging a bad defense like deep into the playoffs. So yeah, you can see it happen. They have the personnel, but once you get in there, I mean, they're gonna have home field advantage. But once you get in the playoffs, you never really know because someone's got They got all the tape on you, and they can really, a good coach can really dial in a good game plan against a defense that's been performing well all year. We see it almost every playoffs where a good defense just gets torched once or twice. So it's hard to say. You'll never really know until it happens.
Yeah, the NFC is just so wide open. I feel like right now, they've all got their flaws. The Dallas and Arizona game pretty much made me not really scared of anybody now. I mean, and then Tampa was losing to the Jets for most of that game. So
yeah, all those teams have their problems.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of a team getting torched, the Lions just got torched, and the Bears did some torching. I don't really have much to say about the Giants Bears game. I have a couple things later on, but what's that?
Keep Nagy.
Oh, it's a career-saving win.
That was proof in the pudding right there.
Yeah. It's almost a foregone conclusion. We'll see. Obviously we can talk about a little bit later too, like which team is going to get rid of their coach quickest. Who's going to hit send on
right
the email quicker. But when you look at the Lions, I mean, it was a tough game, but I mean, obviously, there's still a lot there, I think.
Well, that's again, of course, the game itself didn't look good. Campbell called out a couple of the rookies on defense, the linebackers and DNs, that they have to step up and play better. And that's true. But it's a young, inexperienced team. And then a team that's got again, we've been over this week after week. It's, so that's to be expected, I guess, from these guys that what you saw. Look, I figured, and I had said that a couple weeks back, I knew after watching the Seahawks lose to Chicago, I was a little worried, but I knew this could be Russell Wilson's the 12th man hasn't shown up for weeks in Seattle, but I knew if this is the possibility of Russell Wilson's last game there, the people were going to show up and they were going to be loud, and they were, and it really affected the Lions early in that game. I don't think they were used to that. Most crowds are not really into it when the Lions come.
They're still filtering in the
it was a different world for them to be in kind of a playoff atmosphere. I mean, that's a playoff atmosphere when you get the 12th man going there and they're pumped up and they're screaming and yelling and you can't hear any of the play calls at the line. And the line, again, young, inexperienced backup guys. I mean, they're not ready for that. They're not ready for that atmosphere. And then to step up and have to play Russell Wilson, who can make magic regardless of how good or bad he's playing. He has plays every game that are just kind of magical in the pocket. And, he was just he knew too, it could be his last game there. Everybody came to play in Seattle as kind of a playoff atmosphere, last game, farewell atmosphere. Lions weren't ready for that. They're not built for that yet. They haven't experienced that yet. So of course it didn't look good. But again, what do you expect this time of year? And it was the best thing that could happen for them. Getting your butt kicked is not good, but as far it clinched a 1 or 2 pick. 1 or 2, they can't have lower, higher than the 2 pick now, and it's going to give them a lot of leeway come the draft. But this was all a Russell Wilson goodbye. Look at the Steelers game, like it was. The Steelers aren't very good either. Let's be honest. And Watt came to play. So this is kind of the same thing that the Lions just ran into in Seattle, where it's like all the team, everybody came to play because they're like,
Yeah.
if this is Russ's last game here, we're not letting.
The wrong side of a narrative game
to the
for
Lions,
sure.
like they weren't going to let that happen.
No.
But,
Hey,
yeah,
Amon-Ra
I thought
St.
it
Brown
looked
though.
good.
How about him? Amon-Ra
Yeah.
St. Brown still. Amon-Ra St. Brown looking good still.
The kid looks really, really special.
Yeah.
And and he's doing it with nobody around, and even Reynolds was out.
Yeah.
So, he's doing it with, and Hutchinson's been out for the season, and he is the only threat on the team, and he still is balling out. And so I got to give him credit. Everybody, obviously, Jamar Chase is the man of the year, and I actually think, going into MVP talk probably here a little later, I really think that they should consider stuff like that, because everybody's talking about Joe Burrow or blah, 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 but Jamar Chase off the chain, and he's actually proving to be an MVP of your team, because the Bengals would be nowhere without him. And the same thing for the Lions. If you look at this rookie kid in St. Brown, the Lions over the last 6 weeks have been competitive in several games.
Yeah.
And it was all due to him being able to get open from, they're all rotating over the top of him, not letting him come across the middle, and he's still getting open and making plays.
He's so shifty. He's so shifty.
Yeah.
After he catches the ball too, for a little guy, he's really good after the run. He is just, you can't, it's like catching lightning in a bottle.
So,
he's just so, go ahead.
Yeah, he reminds me of after Edelman, had a few years at New England and got going and learned how to be a receiver. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown came into the league as a receiver, but he's just looks good. He is going to be a great draft pick for that team, especially where they drafted him at. And he's the rookies and the young guys on this team look pretty damn good. They had a really good draft for, again, besides Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was kind of the name of the draft for the Lions that came out of that. Yeah. And but some of these other guys have shown out on defense, and then Penny Sewell obviously was but he's been these guys, it's tough. It's tough as rookies. They're learning the game. It's a whole nother experience. You can be as dominant as you want in college.
And especially at tackle. At tackle, it's hard to come in and if you look okay, that's an excellent season.
Yeah. And so it's just tough for these guys, and that's why I got to give the Lions, Dan Campbell, the staff, the young guys and the inexperienced guys have played so damn well. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, some of these guys that are on that team are outcasts from other teams. They just got thrown to the garbage pile, and they've come out with a chip on their shoulder, and some of them have proved to be really, really good for a bad team right now.
Well, yeah, and so speaking of a player with a chip on his shoulder, that's really kind of proves something, something at least positive for the Giants and Bears going into that game. Robert Quinn became the all-time Bears sack leader, and which means a lot as a Bears fan. He
single season, right? Or is
for
that
this? For the single season. Yep, cool. and that's surpassing Richard Dent, and he did do it in 16 games, not 17. So that
no asterisk.
Yeah, no asterisk. So that's huge, and he also did it against former legendary Bears quarterback Mike Glennon. So that is also full circle there. But and not a lot positive on that game. Other than that, they did win. But so kind of going with that, it's the end of the season. We can kind of get into some of the other previews, but you were talking about MVP stuff, Grubb, and Danielle had something we wanted to talk about too. This whole stuff with Aaron Rodgers and the Chicago Sportswriter Hub Arkush, his MVP comments. What were your thoughts on that, Danielle, when you saw that?
Good old Hub. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and if they don't take his vote, how do you not take his vote away? First of all, he's not even supposed to be talking about it.
Right.
So that right there should be enough. No matter what he said, he's not supposed to be talking. The MVP is for players on the field, how they play on the field. Players, not humans, not most important person, not his most important.
It's not the Walter
player.
Payton Man of the Year award, right? It's
point.
the
They give
MVP.
awards for that. They give awards for things.
Right.
Although when that was kind of Hub's, what he was talking about, and I'm not defending him at all, but that's what he said, that they're not giving parameters as far as it has to be on the field, right?
Oh, interesting.
And, so they're not giving that parameters.
I mean, come on, it says most valuable player. It doesn't say most valuable locker room guy or
open to interpretation. I mean, this is the whole debate about
that's what it's going into.
I hate to cut off Danny because this is like her thing, but I just have to say so that it really pissed me off.
Yeah.
I think it's crap, and I think that dude wanted his 2 minutes of fame.
Mm-hmm, that's what it is.
Like Aaron Rodgers said today, nobody knew who the hell he was unless you're in Chicago. Nobody knows who the hell that guy is, and this is what I was talking about weeks ago against Aaron Rodgers, the media bias. And I just think I think it was such a low blow, like to me, and excuse my language, but that was some pussy shit. That was that's some bad, you go and you do these things and you say this so you could draw a crowd, right? Like the guy who starts a fight at school when all the teachers are around. That's kind of what he went after was, hey, I'm going to throw vaccination in there and I'm going to throw these things in there. And that way the public or these people who get crazy about all these things are going to, side with him and they'll all attack Aaron Rodgers. And I think it was BS.
Well, here's the thing on that. And I, listen to Arkush all the time on Chicago radio. And I, from what I know, he's and what I've heard, he's been on that bandwagon from the start. So it's not necessarily him getting 15 minutes of fame, but it's him overstepping on that. And, of course he's going to have that bias, and hearing him on this, all year, knew he's going to have that bias. It's so interesting that he has made Aaron Rodgers a sympathetic character to even Bears fans, right? So it's like well,
grow up and vote for Jamar Chase because that's the dude who should be MVP of the NFL. Again, the Bengals would totally suck. And fine, come out and say I voted for Jamar Chase, but don't pull all that other BS.
That was a career move, and honestly, it might have been a really good one.
Well, he was backtracking really quickly because his MO, his a little bit of backstory on him. His dad, I believe, was in media and everything, so he's just kind of always been a quieter guy, but very opinionated. But I definitely disagree with them because you look at it, where would most valuable player, Jamar Chase is good, right? Joe Burrow might be MVP in my opinion of Bengals.
Jamar Chase is making Joe Burrow look. All the numbers come from Jamar Chase yak yards. Yeah. I mean,
so then that's the question, and maybe this is Danielle too. Is it Devontae Adams is making Aaron Rodgers?
No, nowhere near Jamar Chase.
No, because
she got so upset. Look at her face.
I was ready for that.
I feel like if Devontae were to go to another team without Aaron, I think Devontae would be Devontae. But I don't think Devontae makes Aaron because Aaron has had to play without Devontae, and he's undefeated without Devontae. So
that's good ammo.
That's a great point.
And
and that's kind of to the point. If Jamar Chase doesn't play super good, Joe Burrow doesn't usually look that well right now either.
Interesting.
When Aaron had broken his collarbone and Brett Hundley had to play, I went to that game. I believe it was Browns game, one of the Browns game I went to. Devontae was catching passes like it was Aaron out there. So I feel like they are just both the best at what they do, and no matter who Aaron's throwing to, they're going to catch it, and no matter who Devontae's quarterback is, he's going to catch it. So I don't think that either of them make each other. I just think they're the best at their positions, and
that is a great answer. Because like I say, Jamar Chase is making Joe Burrow look extraordinary. Not that Joe Burrow, I'm not talking like knocking Joe Burrow. He's a very good young quarterback. Very good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But Jamar Chase, again, he had 266 yards this last week, and probably 200 and something of those were all yak yards. I mean, and you got to think that, so Joe Burrow threw for, he's like the 490 and 500 yards. But if Jamar Chase himself has 250 yards of yaks, and he's catching ball. Jamar Chase made him look good. Whereas I think Devontae complements Aaron, but if Devontae can't get open or they're over the top, they're double, triple teaming him, pushing him through zones. Aaron Rodgers finds who. Aaron Rodgers makes the play. Lazard makes the touchdown. Alan Lazard looks like a great receiver. Why? Explain that to me.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Alan Lazard is the greatest route runner, catcher, all the things that he is, but
because Aaron throws him open.
Correct. And I'll look at all the whole receiver squad. The whole receiver squad, besides Devontae Adams, which one of those guys would be a starting receiver probably on the rest of the NFL league, right? Lazard, a second guy, and Valdez-Scantling, even Kumaro looked amazing, right, a couple years ago. So it's like
that's a sensitive subject. Don't bring up Kumaro.
Tell you what, they would probably start on the Bears, but
fair enough.
And Lions.
Hey, Mooney. Bears got a little bit of Mooney to think about. Now he's approaching 1,000 yards, right?
So and we can talk about this now. I mean, Mooney is obviously approaching 1,000 yards for the Bears, and so I went back and looked. And I hope you guys all feel sorry for me here. Bears career wide receiver leaders. All right, you ready? Here we go. Johnny Morris, 1967 with 5,059 yards. Harlan Hill is number 2, 1961.
Wow.
Number 3, Alshon Jeffery, right? Number 4 is Walter Payton.
Wow.
Mike Ditka, number 5. Yeah, Ditka's there, 1966. I mean, and Allen Robinson. If he would have had a better year, he would have moved up the ranks. But
these are all total yards. I got confused. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So these are total yards.
These are like career yards, right? Like,
right. And so that's the thing. Mooney is almost to 1,000 yards. He is almost 1/5 of the way to being the career leader. This is Mooney, and listen to Chicago radio and stuff. And Mooney, he's had a lot of drops lately, so I don't know if he's a number 1 receiver. The Bears are definitely going to need to go out and get some other wide receivers.
Oh, you need help for sure. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, just to cut him for a second, he gets open, which is the number 1 skill. He gets open, which is the number 1. And you can deal with other stuff. If you catch 75% of them, but you're open 90% of the time, okay, fine. Yeah. Anyway.
So this is why obviously I hope Devontae Adams goes with the Bears or whatever. But as far as that, I mean, a big part of this obviously is the quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, and I don't want this to become like I don't want to become an Aaron Rodgers apologist, but it's just hard not to be with how good he is. I'm actually scared if he doesn't win the MVP. Right. I think he's got that chip on his shoulder anyway. If he doesn't win the MVP, holy cow, be scared.
I think it's unfortunate that it's become a quarterback award, to be honest, because Jonathan Taylor, again, and Jamar Chase, I know he's a rookie, so he won't get the cred.
Oh, my God. He deserves it. He deserves it.
I know what Aaron Rodgers has done, and I can't take away from him. But, and again, I don't know if any 3 of those teams would be who they are. Colts, right? Bengals, and Packers, right? Because we've seen it. There's been backup quarterbacks come in during the year, and the Packers are with the same receivers out there. Don't look,
usually a worse overall team. They have a very good roster this year, but point taken for sure. Point taken. Yeah.
So you're kind of moving. Okay.
Sorry, with that Kansas City game where Jordan Love played, Aaron Rodgers blows that game. Yeah. That game would have been a blowout.
Yeah, that would have been a blowout.
Absolutely.
Hey, he almost got the W anyway, though.
So the Packers are going to be the number 1 seed. Obviously it'll be interesting to see this week. We can do a little bit of Packers Lions preview here. Basically the only question is, does Green Bay play their starters?
According to Coach, yes. I'm torn because a few of them have said they don't want to come back rusty. They would have almost 3 weeks off. I do not like the Packers coming off of byes. So I think that's a little bit too much.
Is there worry that they would be cold coming out? Is that what it is? Like kind of stay hot? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. So they have momentum. They're hot right now. They're on a run. They don't want to mess that up, which I completely understand. I don't want that to happen either. But then the injuries this year for us have been insane. Aaron's hurt. He is feeling better, he says, but I worry about something stupid happening while he's in there and right before the playoffs with his toe injury.
I think this game becomes like a preseason game. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like they'll put their starters in for just a little bit. I don't see that playing the whole entire game.
Yeah, they're like I say, like I see it as like, maybe the second week preseason game where they play them for like a quarter and maybe a little drag into the second quarter, because that way they can, they stay in game mode. They build up, they start the game, they, have practice and prep and all those things and lead in the same direction.
Yeah,
they get in the game, they play. They're probably up by a couple touchdowns by the end of the first quarter in this game. And, it doesn't matter at that point. They don't need anything, but they've come and they've progressed and they've gotten some drives and they've gotten some things just like a preseason game. And then they sit, but they have a week of preparation, a week of really game time situation. And look, the Lions, I don't know. I don't know what team shows up this week. It's not like the Lions literally have nothing to play for, regardless of obviously now draft status. It doesn't even matter.
No.
They're going to get one of the two top players in the draft. So they're not like, they're going to come out and they're going to play. They've shown that each week. But for the Packers, like Danielle just said, I think the smart thing to do is have a game situation, just like you would practice in preseason. You have that week of practice. You have that week of game setup, and then you come out, you have a couple drives, regardless of you're up 7, 14, 17. The guys come out probably, before halftime. You've got all and with the with the Packers' health right now, you might have some practice squad guys, getting some reps, getting some games. That's going to be one of those games. So the Lions in the end may end up winning this game if it's close in the first half, but it's all because who trots out there on the field, especially in the second half.
And the Packers may be getting. I know they're going to try for JR to come back and Bach to come back before the playoffs. So I would think that if they are a go on Sunday, I would want the starters to be out there with them to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give them some reps.
To get it back into the swing of things. See how they're how they're going to play. I don't know how to word this. I worry about. Jair and Bach are all pros. I know they're going to be good no matter what. But I just worry about kind of like not ruining the chemistry of the team, because I don't want to say that. I don't think they would ruin the chemistry, but you know what I mean? Like just having players jump in when they're already doing well. Is that going to mess?
Well, that's again, treating it like a preseason game. You bring some guys in, you get them back into game shape. You do those things.
See how they all gel together.
Yeah. You kind of let them gel, and you kind of get back to used to each other playing these positions, and then, I think it's actually perfect for the Packers. I'm gonna be honest, because they can't have this like preseason game at the end of the season. They're playing for nothing, but yet they've got all these injuries and can bring these guys. Again, it's literally just like preseason, right?
They can test it out, and it's not going to matter if they win or lose. It's pretty much they just get to see how everyone's.
Correct, and that's why I say you bring them out for the first quarter, and it kind of trickles into the second quarter. And if they're playing bad, maybe they're like, "Hey, we need some more reps," and they play them through halftime. But I don't see the point of a lot of that for a lot of the starters, because again, they are so beat up. You lose more guys, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Come playoff time.
And you got lucky a little bit so far with the replacement players. You don't want to. Rest them up a little bit. Yeah.
You're risking too much if you go all game.
Aaron's hardly been practicing anyway.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Not really worried about him, but I do agree that they, as a team, want to keep the momentum going and not get too rusty.
Yeah, they just
There's
need
pros
some
and
game
cons.
time situation. And the Lions, this could, again, if you wanted it to work out for the Packers' favor, having the Lions play you the last game of the season and it means nothing to either team.
Oh my God.
It couldn't come any better for the Packers, where they can, again, because they are trying to heal up, but also repatch work these guys into the system.
Yeah.
Again, it plays just like
it seems like the stars are aligning for the Packers. Like,
a little too good.
I saw something about, I can't remember exactly what's going on, something with COVID. And if they're not able to play in LA for the Super Bowl because of COVID, they were thinking about moving it to Dallas, which is like Aaron's second home field. So it's just also perfectly lined up for them. Either they're going to play at Lambeau or possibly go to Dallas.
Either way, they're going to play on a fast field. So if they play in the Super Bowl, like they make it the Super Bowl, it depends who they play, because those are going to be fast fields, and they're gonna tend to lean towards good offenses, and so
a lot of good offenses on the other side too.
Yeah. And this week though, again, this is like you get a pregame, you get a practice game, you get an exhibition game to get your players healthy, and the guys who are healthy, get them some game reps and game snaps. And I hate to say it as the Lions guy, but again, the Lions, I think, will have a great possibility of winning this game just because of who trots out there in the second half. Because it may be, obviously we'll have like Love, but there could be some guys that aren't even practice squad guys that have been literally off the street that are just
because their starters are a lot of off the street guys to a certain extent. So who's the backups?
Like as hurt as they are, as the guys who they have, the guys who are going to come in the second half of this game.
Yeah. I'll see you guys out there.
Yeah. So if it's close, I can see the Lions winning, and it doesn't matter for either team. However, I would like the biggest upset, Jaguars over Colts, and then the Lions lose and they get the 1 pick. But, we're talking long shot here. But however, the Colts, just a stat for you guys, the Colts have lost like 6 in a row in Jacksonville.
Wow.
So
it's actually pretty wild. Yeah.
Wow. So Jacksonville has not been good for a long time in those 6 years. So it's a streak right now. So the Lions, I would hate, again, we've been on this. I want them to play so well, and I want them to do well each week. But right now, if the Lions did lose this game, and the Colts, again, they've choked 6 times in a row in Jacksonville, and which could even put the Steelers in the playoffs if they beat the Ravens. But I could get my Lions the 1 pick. And so, but I think it's tough this week. I think the Lions can come out in the second half and put it on the Packers if the game's close at halftime.
Yeah.
I hope we see Jordan Love and Tim Boyle.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my God. We were talking about Mannion. But I give all these guys respect. They're playing NFL, so you can't take away from them. These guys got talent.
Yeah, you kidding me?
Oh, they're not there because they're, suck. But geez, man,
they might suck to watch either way.
Well,
God, Boyle. He had a decent game, one game, but it's been a disaster with that dude under center. So
yeah.
Well, speaking of kind of NFC North losers, let's go ahead and move on to the Vikings and Mike
all
Zimmer.
Three of these squares. And then the top right corner there doesn't have to worry about the losing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, who's the biggest loser here? Is the Vikings, Mike Zimmer? I mean,
oh God, it's the Vikings. I would say. I mean, Mike Zimmer. I would say. Maybe the Bears because they hurt their draft cap. They don't even have a draft pick.
They don't have a first cap.
So screw it. Yeah, no, it's definitely Mike Zimmer. Going out a little predictably, you kind of hate to see it because this is probably the end of his career. And Mike Zimmer had a pretty nice little run going, right? Very respectable run as a Vikings head coach. But you hate to see just the unhinged press conferences. Like they're fun when like every once in a while and a little bit, and they're fun in the preseason. But when you're just going down and taking shots unnecessarily at people, right? Like just a complete unnecessary. Like, and I know they're football players. Do they care? Kellen Mond came out and said he didn't care. But when Mike Zimmer just did a complete drive-by and destroyed, I've never heard a coach destroy a player in fewer words. And it's like the third string quarterback. Like, why? You could have just said, I don't think he's ready. I guess we'll reevaluate next year. But it's like, nope, see him every day, and that's plenty. Get out of here. No, and then following that press conference up, which I'm sure most people have heard, where Mike Zimmer just went off, not even just took the minimum amount of words to destroy Kellen Mond's psyche. Mike Zimmer follows it up with trying to describe the way that there's disconnects on the offense. And he literally started describing how he's trying to tell Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator, to run the ball more. But Clint's already pressing the button, so when Zimmer presses the button, neither of them can hear each other. And he's like vocalizing this, and it's like, oh my God, like, is this real? You said the defense, oh yeah, the defense isn't good because sometimes I press the button and then he's pressing the button at the same time. We both press the button. And it's like, God. Oh no, leave, go, get out of the building. Oh my God. Because you
Three
see,
Stooges.
Yeah, exactly. And like you see people like you look across the border and you see Aaron Rodgers and his head coach, and like you can see them like I just imagine the conversations they're having. Meanwhile, we got Mike Zimmer like screaming into the microphone, "Run the ball on first down," and it's just a joke at this point. He's become a meme, and I do love memeable head coaches, but it's become a little tasteless, and you can tell he's on the way out. Vikings no-show against Green Bay. Honestly, it was same as the Rams. Just a no-show there too. Honestly, no-showed against the Bears as well. But oof, we're gonna get a repeat of that coming up this week. It's just sad to see. The Vikings fans are the losers. Mike Zimmer's the loser because he's tarnishing his career right now, and he has no leg to stand on. And we were talking about this before the show. When's the last time Mike Zimmer's developed a defensive back? The DB whisperer, right? And we talked about it. It's Rhodes. Not Rhodes, sorry.
Rhodes.
No, Rhodes was the first
But Rhodes
one.
is good somewhere else.
Yeah, and he's gone. That's fine. He broke down a little bit for us. No, it was Trey Waynes, who was not as good as Rhodes, but he turned into an NFL caliber cornerback. And he was drafted in 14 or 15, and that is the last time that Mike Zimmer has developed a starting NFL cornerback. Wow. Right? When's the last time Mike Zimmer developed a starting NFL defensive lineman? It was Danielle Hunter, drafted in 2016, 17 maybe, right? And they keep taking these shots, and every single one of them just dud. And a couple of guys like Armand Watts showing a little bit of life on the interior, but still, that's a rotational backup role. That's not like, oh yeah, I really really developed that guy. It's like, yeah, he's okay. Like he could rush the pasture 4 or 5 times a game, no problem. But Zimmer, NFC North loser of the week, NFC North probably loser of the year, just with how pompous he has been while sucking. What do you do here? Your defense is terrible. We went and spent $20-30 million on defensive players off your list, and your defense is worse. What do you do here? You just yell at rookie quarterbacks? That's it? Hey, get out. You're done.
Well, yeah, I mean, and speaking of kind of this game going in, and we can kind of get into the game part soon, but
oh yeah,
this, quite possibly is the last game for both of the coaches, for the Bears and the Vikings, but also both general managers. I guess I hadn't really, heard that much about the Vikings general manager.
No, they're very tight-lipped, the Wolves. You wouldn't hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the Bears, it's loose-lipped, but they just don't know what they want to do. Whether they're going to, it's evidently better than 50-50 that they might, keep the general manager, and basically it was they were collaborating together. So it's just crazy to think that they're going to keep Ryan Pace and get rid of Nagy. So it's just a mess.
Because you can't let Pace hire the next head coach, right? It's
you can't. I mean, so that's the thing. They might move him up, but he wouldn't have all of the say. It's just
that is what's happening to Spielman. By the way, he's getting moved up. I can almost guarantee this, even though I said they're tight-lipped. Spielman is a really good employee for the Wolves. They're moving him up, and they're going to bring in a new. They're going to bring in a new general manager before they bring in a new coach. I almost guaranteed.
And you almost have to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't bring in a coach, and you have to, it's got to be, one before the other, the general manager. And with the Bears, they just need to get, figure out what they're doing, because even like the Ted Phillips, who, he's the head of it all, but he's more of a money guy. There's whispers that he may actually even retire. So they're just not quite sure what they're going to do from a football side of things. And they really need to have more football people. So they're even having, there's rumors that they're having like former football, greats from the Bears to come in, and like Peanut Tillman, Jerry Zuma, these players on Twitter. It's
always so dangerous. It's so dangerous to bring in the player that everyone loves.
Right, but good and bad. But they kind of need that. They almost need to just revamp things and just, because they've been doing things, wrong for so long. I mean, they really need to do something, and I don't know what they're going to do. It sounds like, the Bears are kind of, similar to, obviously the Vikings, they're very loyal, and they really like Ryan Pace. The big thing with Ryan Pace is he was allowed basically to be the guiding voice for all of the Hallis Hall, $100 million Hallis Hall upgrades and all that. So that's kind of what's really
that's super weird, honestly.
Yeah,
right. Because really the Wolves, like, they're real estate developers, the owners of the Vikings. So like when they you don't have Spielman out here like like, you know what I mean? No, he's the football guy. That's actually one thing I really appreciate about the Wolves, is they know where their lane is. They're like, yes, we write the checks, you make the decisions. No, we develop the real estate. What the hell? No, like football. That's so weird. That's such an ownership issue at that point. If your general manager is really involved in your real estate dealings, like, what are you doing? That is a full-time football job. Oh my God. I didn't know about that, actually.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing. There's just no identity that way. And there hasn't been for a while. And that's why they've been making these, issues with, coaches and bad choices and things like that. So it'll be interesting, kind of getting into the preview of the game, obviously, well, I mean, before even kind of we talk about the nuts and bolts, but there are some implications, or some schedule implications for 2022, presumably.
Huge.
And from some research I was looking at, there's a difference between possible and probable schedules for the second place NFC finisher and the third place NFC finisher for next year. So what I saw, they're kind of projecting. They're projecting that the second place finisher in 2022 will face the Saints, Colts, and Cardinals. Oof. Right. No. So that's huge right there. And presumably the Bears actually have an inside track. Even if the Bears win this game, they have an inside track to the third place finish 2022, the home games versus Houston 49ers and a road game versus Falcons.
Oh, that's not so bad. Yeah. Not to mention, and you would rather, it's easy. Yeah. I'll take the second one. Thanks.
Right.
Also, there's about just like a 7, 8, 9. I haven't worked it out fully, because what's the point? Someone's going to tell me in a week anyway. But there's a difference between like the 7th and 8th or 9th pick and like the 16th or 17th pick. Like, that's how wide. There's a lot of teams with 6 wins in the NFL right now. And so tacking on an extra win could mean that you get a pick 7, 8, 9 picks later, which look, no one's out there playing for picks, but we're fans. We care about picks. And both of these teams are clearly in rebuild mode, right? We're both certain that our coaches are getting fired on Monday. We're both nearly certain that our GMs are not going to be GMs next year. So you want draft picks, you want capital. You're clearly not surging right now, right? So you want to lose this game for either team, to be honest. Like, you never root for your team to lose, but both teams want to lose this game.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting, like, fan base, you say that, but you look at these coaches, and I think we talked about this before. I know, Matt Nagy. I mean, it's this whole big thing that they want to go out on a winning streak, and it's, of course, Matt Nagy, they're going to play Fields if he's healthy. It seems like Zimmer's that way too. He's
all the starters, starters. One word answers too. Will you play the starters? Yes. Like, that guy is done. He's like, no, we're playing the starters. Like, if you're questionable, if they have like a nagging knee injury, he's putting them out there. Like, Zimmer is petty, and Zimmer is mad right now.
Because he doesn't care about draft, anything like that. He
cares about win-loss. He brings it up a lot. He doesn't say I care about win-loss, but like, he cares. There's a reason he cares about how much he loses by when he's going to lose. And he cares about a win-loss record in a season that they don't make the playoffs, right? It really does matter to him. That's the reason why when you're down, for example, 20 points to the 49ers in the second half and you're punting, right? It's because that he cared about the margin of deficit, right? You know what I mean? He really cares. When he was on the hot seat in 2019, he brought up, I have a 60% win-loss percentage. And we're like, nobody cares, but like he cares about this stuff. Yeah, I know, right? That's the same. Danielle, it's the exact same reaction, right? It's like, God, like just no one cares.
Well, but and you guys are talking about, how the schedule is going to play out next year. And look, one of the toughest seasons for this entire division is this season. You have this season, you have you have AFC North, right? That was the division this year in the AFC, and then you also had NFC West. So you had two of the top divisions, who's all teams except for maybe one. But again, the Seahawks, even though in the West they weren't playoff bound, they're a team that can screw you and beat you
any day,
any game, and then to have to play the AFC North. So this year was tough. So next year, an easier schedule for the entire division. If you actually have the easiest schedule of the division, you're probably going to be in really good shape.
Lions looking good next year.
It's going to be a rebuild for half of the division, and then we're getting Aaron back. So
probably. I mean, I believe it. I will believe Aaron leaves when he leaves. Before he leaves, I will not believe he's leaving. That's what I've decided.
Yeah.
So while you're rebuilding, we'll continue to see what we do.
Well,
win.
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened this week. The Bears reporter, or the Chicago, I don't know if he's a Bears reporter per se. He's more of a
Chicago Sportswriter.
Yeah. So, but that was fuel. I mean, if you didn't want Aaron Rodgers to be in Green Bay, you should have kept your mouth shut. That's kind of, that's a thing. That's a fuel we've been talking about in this entire podcast.
Oh, he'll remember. He'll remember.
Oh, he's taking receipts.
Yep. And he will want to revenge that again, because he'll want to come out next year and play for Green Bay and get 3 years in a row MVP. Like, that's the way that'll fuel his fire. I think it was I just think it was a mistake overall for this guy to say all the things he said.
Yep, that was a big mistake.
Cousins
and Fields back. Oh, sorry, I thought that was next year. Sorry, I missed it. I'm like reading the banner. I was
however, maybe I'm wrong, because it is Aaron Rodgers, and he has weird tendencies.
We don't know
that he wants to go to the Bears and prove him wrong.
Oh yeah, he's already said.
No, please, Aaron, don't do that to us. Oh my goodness.
Obviously with Fields, that's not going to happen. But there are two places. Who knows what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins in this offseason?
Yeah, it depends on the coach, right? And that'll be some like the offseason content. This offseason is going to be excellent. And how many draft picks in the first round do we have in this room right now?
Right. But if there was a team in division that Aaron Rodgers was going to go to, because again, we talked about this with Brady, and we talked about this probably a month ago. Yeah. That if there was a team within the division that was ready to win now, it would be the Vikings, as far as having an offense that Aaron Rodgers would love to go to with Cook, Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. Aaron Rodgers so if there was a team that he wanted to go prove something to this division and stay in the division, I think it would be the Vikings, because he's not going to go the Lions in rebuild mode. He's not going to go the Bears in rebuild mode.
He's not going to any of them.
The Packers, he could totally Brett Favre it.
He could, and he tries so hard not to be Brett Favre that maybe he'll just act. It's like when you try not to be your dad.
Oh my God!
You just end up being your dad anyway.
Yeah. Like are they Geico or whatever commercials they are? Like where you're not trying to be your parents. And
exactly, and you end up in there. And then you end up all of a sudden you're on the Vikings.
And that's a lot of us. We don't want to be our moms or dads, and here we are later in life, and you have some kids around, and you catch yourself, and you're like, did I just say that?
I'll give you something to cry about.
I grew up with my grandparents, but I'm like, did I just sound like my grandfather? Really?
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I mean, right now, Aaron Rodgers, and obviously he's said it earlier in the year. He owns the Bears. He owns the NFC North. It'll be interesting, that storyline. I think going into this week and into the playoffs, it really. it is all on Aaron Rodgers. He is the key for the whole playoffs, in my opinion. If he's able to get healthy, I think that will be, helpful as well. I mean, because these players, it does, take a toll on them. This extra week, it takes a toll on them as well. And so I think, Grubb is right. It does kind of turn into almost like a preseason, type game where, they're able to try things and it is set up perfectly. They can maybe even throw in some new plays that they're thinking of, and they don't have to worry about the Lions, and maybe even just to throw some other teams off to put something on tape, or even in the practice time. I do think that they'll do that. So it's definitely an interesting week. I've told you guys, I'm heading to the game, the Bears-Vikings game. I am just hoping that players do play. My kids are excited.
They will. They will. I think the starters are playing, unless ownership steps in, which is not their style.
So it's an NFL game. It's better than preseason, right? And I think there's going to be a lot going on there, and obviously within the division, there's only going to be one team really kind of focusing past this week. And so obviously in coming weeks, we're definitely going to be doing some previews. And
we'll have some matchups for sure. Have some coaching candidates, have some GM candidates. Like it's going to, now I'm ready to have some fun. Like the season's over and I'm like ready to, all right, now we can have some good times.
Bring your soup out, right?
Oh yeah. There will be a soup recipe on Twitter sometime in the next couple of weeks. I practiced it the other weekend and it turned out just really great.
You probably see a pretty good game because again, it becomes almost like like you said, it's not a preseason game, but it's also not like a game. So you'll have some young guys. You'll have some guys they want to put in with the starters to see how well they play and mesh with these guys. What do they have in some of these guys going forward in the future? But it's not going to be, hey, let's play all the backups. It's going to be, hey, let's mix in this guy who's been on, who's been our fourth or fifth wide or third DN, and they'll mix them in and out, and they'll see how these guys get to play. And I think it'll make for a good game because of that.
I'll watch it. I'm excited. One last thing before we go. Now, is it Nwangwu or is it Wongwu? How do you pronounce Wongwu's last name? You were an Iowa guy up there, Andy.
Oh, well, I'm a Hawkeye. I'm not a Cyclone.
But
So I think it is the first one. We'll just go with the first one.
So okay, and Wongwu. Okay. Anyway, great show, everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be another great week, and look forward to seeing you guys next week. A lot to talk about next week. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah.
And Danielle, sorry.
And guys and lady. And before we go though, real quick, I just want to send a shout out to Dan Campbell for when the game was over and the Seahawks ran a trick play that goes 30 yards to the 1 yard line inside 2 minutes in a blowout game. A lot of these NFL coaches bitch and moan about things like that. And Dan Campbell said, my guys should have stopped it. If they don't like it, then they should stop it. And it made me love Dan Campbell even more than what's 100%. Progressed over the last 6 and 7 weeks. 100%. But good for him. If you don't like it, this is the NFL. Stop the damn play. Yeah. Don't be a big baby.
No, absolutely. Stop the run play, right?
It's an end around. It's not like they ran some triple reverse, pitch pass or something.
Is it even a trick play at this point? Like,
no, he was pissed off at the rookies and the DN who, they didn't make the play. Yeah. Like if you're a DN and the end around gets around you, that's your fault. That's not because they ran the play.
Yeah.
How many times do we see the jet sweep or the end around just get stuffed by DNs and linebackers?
It's not even a good play anymore.
No, it was for a while, but now everybody's gotten used to it. It's just like the Wildcat. So it's it gets stopped every week. Stop it. Yeah, I love it. Dan Campbell.
I too 100% approve of just grow the fudge up and put on your big boy football pants and make the God D play.
That's right.
Love it. Once again, this has been the Freezin 4 NFC North podcast, and we will see you all next week.
Bye, y'all.
Take care. Happy New Year.